Anyway, uh, here's the new agenda. It's now the American Union Hall agenda. All right, introduction. Welcome. The American Union Hall is a weekly discussion group. Our focus is supporting and building the American Union to pass the blueprint for a better America. I'm TC, your host and facilitator. Brian is the qualified witness. This can be the American Union home on Zoom, a place to meet and get to know other union members and ask questions and get information. We encourage respectful, open-minded, nonviolent communication. Thanks for attending, and let's begin. Introductions. So today for introductions, why don't we start out with something to center us in this space? Or, well, what I will do is I will say, I'll say, well, center me in this group is the gratitude for the people that are here. So what would center me is focusing on this, creating this as a home for people to feel like they belong. That would center me. I want to feel like I belong here. You can say whatever you want to.
Okay, well, I'm Chiwa. I'm in Oceanside, California, and I'm here to have a good discussion that would keep me centered. A good discussion of some topic.
Okay, thank you, Chiwa. That centered me. Brian?
My name is Brian. I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And what keeps me centered? Is that what the question is?
Well, what would bring you into this meeting tonight, to center in this meeting tonight?
Knowing that other people want to work together to solve problems in this country.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Round two is old business. Are there any lingering thoughts from last week? Last week was, there was 4 of us here, and I was trying to introduce the values for the CCL, and I didn't feel like I presented very well. Round 3, new business. Does anyone have a burning desire to share, to clear before we start the dialogue?
Well, I guess I'd like to talk about some Supreme Court decisions at some point. I don't know
Okay.
when exactly, whether it's now or later.
Well, let me see. Let me check. Round 4, talk about the Supreme Court. Go ahead, Brian.
So the blueprint, Title II, is supposed to be a truce on guns and abortion. And Supreme Court kind of threw a monkey wrench into things this last week, both with rulings striking down New York's gun control laws and finding that individuals have a constitutional right to bear arms. And then, of course, striking down Roe versus Wade and saying people don't have a right to an abortion. So, so I've been trying to figure, like, what does that mean? How does that affect the truce? Does that mean the truce is still like nobody's interested, or does it mean that, I don't know, what does that mean? And so, just to clarify, Chiwa, the truce, I know TC has watched the videos a couple of times. The truce, everybody gets and gives something up. So the Hyde Amendment gets codified, saying that the federal government wouldn't spend money on abortion, but no abortion bans or restrictions could be introduced in Congress for 10 years. And then on the gun side, I think we talked about, would be universal background checks, but no gun restrictions could be, or bans could be introduced for 10 years. And so does that still hold up in light of these Supreme Court decisions? And so I'm kind of, I don't know. I guess 6 months ago, I didn't think that this, we're saying that Congress couldn't introduce abortion bans or abortion restrictions. That was kind of like seemed kind of hollow, because there wasn't any realistic proposals to do that. Whereas now it's like a thing, like they you give the mouse a piece of cheese and then they're going to want some wine. So you give they got the constitutional right struck down. So now, because Democrats didn't codify a right to an abortion for the last 50 years, now there's the possibility that they could have a national ban. And so does that make it more appealing to take that ban off the table at the same time that you would take a gun ban off the table? I don't know.
Yeah, right. This is a pro-life issue here.
Well, I
Mhm.
thought the brilliance of the blueprint was that it just took both of them out of the equation for 10 years and gave us 10 years to work on the conditions that feed those, the guns and the abortions. Gun death and abortion is driven by issues that the blueprint addresses. And so the idea was, if we can hold this off for 10 years, we can get it done. But I hear what Brian said, and I can't remember what it was, but Brian, you said something right after this happened. Maybe it was you, Chihuahua, but somebody said right after this happened and it went to the states that I can't remember, but there was something that made it was hopeful.
Was
There was a
hopeful.
hope- there was a hopeful outlook there for a minute that, well, and people have maybe more of a say on the local level, on the state level, because the majority of people, my understanding is the majority of people support the right to make the choice about how you want to live your life.
Can we hear what Chihuahua has to say?
Yes, please.
So is your question like about the blueprint, about whether these points are still viable points? Is that your question?
I think that, yeah, that's kind of the question.
Yeah. It would seem that, to me, the answer I would say would be they kind of knocked a hole in it.
And so what's the middle ground that people can that we can create, that we can find? And I guess, so now I feel like the no national ban on abortion is probably a bigger issue to people, right? That people have gotten more protective of the woman's right to choose as a result of the Supreme Court's action.
Well, I think that is true. And the question I have would be, so what? The Supreme Court has already done what what recourse, what legal recourse can we have? I don't know of any.
Once again, Congress can act. Congress can set
Okay.
national standards. They just
Okay.
have chosen not to do it for the last 50 years.
Okay.
And this is sort of a side tangent, but this is one of the many issues where Congress has failed to act. So the court stepped in, and then Congress decided not to do anything. There's all sorts of programs like qualified immunity. Congress could fix it. They didn't. And so the Supreme Court makes this up, like the DACA program, but like that program, right? Where President Obama had issued an executive order starting this program, and Trump said, all right, look, Congress should do this. So I'm going to cancel this executive order in 6 months. Congress, you've got 6 months to fix this. And instead of Congress fixing it, they sued and said, no, you can't, undo this executive order. And so they're being irresponsible, and they're refusing to act. And instead hoping that courts will step in and fix these things.
Okay,
So
so the question becomes, how can we get Congress to be more responsible?
my opinion is by tying their reelection chances to certain specific actions.
Well, then in that case, I would say that it's still relevant. more
Okay.
relevant than ever.
Appreciate you letting me bounce the ideas around, because
I wasn't aware that Congress could reverse. I'm sure I've heard that, but somehow it didn't stick in my brain that Congress could reverse what the court did. But if that's the case, then my God, we need to put some pressure on them to get them to do it. And you have a way to do that.
I think that it would require breaking the filibuster, and they're not willing to do that. And but they could do that. In other words, what Brian's saying is true. They could do this. They just don't want to, because the first thing they did was raise funds. They sent out fundraising letters. That's the first thing they did. And as I'm listening to this conversation, it's just so frustrating that we have a system of government that has nothing to do with me and everything to do with the people in power staying in power by hoodooing as many people as possible to get them to vote for them, and why I'm here. I want something different. I don't know what, but I want something different.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, I know that. Brian, what else do you want to say about this? Wait a minute. We didn't talk about, they did the guns. What did they do with the guns? They said
New
you
York
have-
and other states, had restrictions that you couldn't open carry a gun. You couldn't have a gun in public, essentially, unless you had a permit. And so they struck that down and said people have a fundamental right to, a fundamental right to carry. That the default can't be no guns in public. You can put restrictions on it, but you can't just say, anyway, I don't know. Does that make any sense?
I remember now what it was. You can improve rights, but you can't remove rights. Under this legislation, the fact that the Supreme Court struck down the protection of women's privacy, you could still pass the law to codify that it's a woman's right. And so you can still pass that under this agreement, but you couldn't take more rights away, is what I'm trying to say. Under this agreement, you can't remove rights, but you can add
Under which agreement?
the Blueprint for a Better America.
Right. So, you can't restrict access to abortion for 10 years, and you can't restrict access to guns for 10 years, but you could loosen those restrictions. So
Right.
You could still codify the Hyde Amendment, or not the Hyde Amendment. You could still codify Roe and a woman's right to the right to an abortion. And you could loosen gun restrictions, but you couldn't restrict them. So that's what you were thinking of?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the goal was to take away the fear mongering, the wedge argument that, if you elect that other party, they're going to take your guns or your abortion away. And so to take that off the table for 10 years and instead focus on addressing root causes like poverty. See gun deaths and abortions go down.
They beat us to it.
Who's they?
The people that put the justices in the court that overruled these, that made these decisions, they got their job done, and we didn't get the Democrats didn't get their job done, which would have been to codify it. So anyway, any more discussion? That was good. Okay, round 5. What is the American Union? A large group of members or a network of groups? Now, this is something I went around with you, Brian, yesterday. And I am working out to be able to still get what I want within the framework that you set up, which is to have the umbrella. So what I'm doing is I'm working on the newsletter.
Okay.
So that's my way of connecting. And I really got in touch with tonight that what I want a place to belong. I want to belong to the union. I want to belong to something bigger than me. I want to belong to something that's going to make a difference. I want to be in a space where I'm around people that I know I can trust and work, and we're all focused in the same direction. Anything about what I just said that, or do we need to just not go here or what?
I guess I don't really understand what you see as the distinction between a network and a union.
Okay. A union is, I say, I'm a dues paying member of the union.
Mhm.
And a network says, I'm a group to myself, there's a bigger network. And I'm disconnected from the rest of the people because I'm back in my silo.
But
Yeah.
your silo's in the big silo, the union silo.
Okay, that's why I'm hoping if I write this newsletter that will make me feel more connected, because I really don't necessarily.
I guess again, I'm not understanding what you're seeing as the distinction. Do you ever see that Simpsons episode where they put Homer gets to be in charge of the union and negotiating a new contract with Mr. Burns? And so and so Burns is trying to lowball him and cut out, he promises him a free keg of beer for their union meetings, but he's going to get rid of the dental plan. And Homer realizes that Lisa needs braces. And so keeping the dental plan is important to him. Now, the rest of the guys, they don't care. They don't care about the dental plan, but it's important to him. And so he fights for that. And the rest of the union backs him up and they keep the dental plan. So in the same way that, that's everybody, there's 50 different policies in this package. Everybody has different issues that are important to them. And you're not supposed, nobody's expected to be passionate about all of them. So that's why what I'm trying to understand, TC, is you picture the union as a group of people who are passionate about all 50 issues? Because I don't, that's what I don't understand.
No, if not separate issues. I want people to be excited about the package.
Right. But within that package, are things that you care more, that are more important to you than other parts of it.
That may be true, but that's not what I'm rallying around. I'm rallying
Can
around-
I ask you, like, how do you view political parties, say the Democratic Party, right? Or some people care about immigration reform, some people care about gun control, some people care about, abortion, all those different issues. So do you see the Democratic Party as a network where they bring together these essentially unrelated issues under one umbrella? Or do you see the Democrats as being a union where you're part of a community?
No, you're not part of the community in the Democratic Party. It's a pecking order. It's like you work your way up in power in the party. And if you're not willing to work within that system, you're basically ignored. That's that could be completely wrong, but you asked me how I see it, and
So that's a pretty apt description of the Democratic Party.
I just think, as Roosevelt said, that the purpose of political parties is to make government better for the people, but at that task, they have severely failed. And they have become the tools of an invisible government that sits behind the government that we see. And the duty of the people, the first duty of the people, is to dismantle that invisible government, which is basically, we could call it money. People that have money create that invisible government because they just have laws passed to benefit themselves. And I mean, Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that that's how it's working right now.
So I'm kind of where Brian is. I don't understand your statement. The one that you just read from the agenda.
Okay, the one I read from the agenda. Okay, are we a network or are we a union?
What is the difference?
Right. Now,
Seems to me a network is where you have a bunch of different organizations that are linked,
yeah,
whereas a union is comprised of individuals.
that are focused on one single issue, which is the blueprint for a better America.
In this case, yes.
In this case, this is something worth fighting for. The blueprint for a better America, whether you agree with all of it or not, doesn't matter. If you're open-minded and you look at it, you realize it's a better place for America to start from than where we are now. So I want to be part of a bigger group that's fighting for this. And
You want to be part of a union, which is like individuals who are members of the
right.
union.
And okay, and now I get it. Here, I'm willing to do this. I can say Union 742 is the certain particular union. In other words, I'm willing to have then, once we have a union and there's enough people that we have, then people want to create groups as separate Union Hall number 772 or whatever, the people in North Carolina, or, Union, whatever, the people in East Tennessee or whatever, these different groups. But that means that you've already got the people together. They've come together, they've gelled, they've agreed to this similar goal. And even though they break into smaller groups, they're still focused on the same thing, which is to get the blueprint passed.
Again, I guess, so what do you see as like the distinction between that and the Democratic Party? Where, even though people in different parts of the country or have different issues and things like that, but they all have adopted this higher goal of electing Democrats. And I'm just picking Democrats, could be Republican, but
Right.
that same sort of
I
thing.
think the difference is the amount of education and consciousness involved. To vote Democrat, blue, no matter who, is a real kind of a weak-minded way to go about politics. And so I think that to become part of a union means that I'm an active member, that I have responsibilities within this union to show up and carry my weight. And so I no longer can just vote blue no matter who. I have to work together within the group to come up with the best strategy for moving this forward. I think that I understand why the network was the best option to take, because it will encompass, if we get big, then the network will be a good deal. I just want to feel like
People have different issues in different parts of this that they're passionate about. And so that then, if you're passionate about criminal justice reform, great, go out and persuade people that, that the best way to get your criminal justice reforms passed is as part of a union. Ditto for UBI and ditto for the peace action folks.
Well, why don't we go ahead and talk while he connects?
okay, so I'll just do this. Eddie, we were talking about what is the difference between a network and a union in terms of people coming together to support the blueprint for a better America. Is it a network where you would have different groups focused on different parts of the blueprint, working together on those particular individual parts? Or would you have a singular focus that the idea is, I want a new start for America, and I see the blueprint for a better America as a starting point for a better America. And I want to rally around that instead of any one particular issue.
Seems to me that in the beginning, when we're just building this American Union, we have what, I don't know, several hundred members, whatever. It's really tiny. We want to be bringing in more people. We're building a union in your definition of things. But if once we get to a certain size, this is kind of what you said before, then the focus becomes working for all of the elements of the blueprint. And those are individual elements. So, if you're going to do anything for ending poverty, you have to focus on that. You can't also be focused on everything else.
Okay, I see both. I just saw it. It can be both. It is both. It has that overriding goal of a new beginning, and it has the elements of people need to focus on what's important to them. And so I think I just got clear that I want, what's important to me is the whole package. So and getting people to agree that we're going to do the whole package, but we can each work on our own passion as we go along.
Yeah, and so we agree to support, if you're interested in keeping people, bringing people out of poverty, and somebody else's focus is ending mass incarceration, we agree to support each other, but we can't all put all of our focus on both. You have to focus on one in order to be effective,
Maybe
or
you
at a
could,
time. Anyway.
maybe you could say that UBI does tie into ending mass incarceration, because part of the problem with mass incarceration is people don't have a way to start out when they're released.
Well, yeah, they do all tie in together.
Anyway,
Everything ties in together at some point.
Eddie, are you here yet?
Yeah, I'm here. I heard the second half of that conversation, but it sounds like we're talking about focus.
Talking about what?
Focus? Is that what we're?
Focus, yes, yeah.
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 I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, so I have some experience with long shots, and I think it is about inspiration and passion, and you can, if you're working on something that is so big that there's not even the slightest bit of a guarantee that you will make that much, that you'll make it or make that much progress on it, then I think the question is not really, can you do it or not? The question is it something that you are, that you just have to do because that's just what you need to do with your life. And if it is, then you'll work on it. And if it's not,
Well, Eddie, I really felt that way. Yesterday, I was asked, why do you do this? And I said, I believe in it. I think it's the right thing to do. I think that somebody's got to stand up and say, wait, let's try this, because what we're doing is not working. So let's try true people power, broken up mismatch that we have now of many, many groups. Brian, you're quiet.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm got text banking going on too. I sent out a
Oh,
bunch of
okay.
messages at 7:30. And so as responses are trickling in, I'm responding to them too. So I apologize for not being fully focused.
What are they saying? Bring us in.
This guy Lucas is, asking about why, or is he expressing his concern about universal basic income. And he's concerned that it sounds nice on paper, but if you look at the rate of drug addiction, more people will spend their money getting drugs. And if you want to help, you should incentivize being self-sustaining without crutches and leave the crutches for the disabled.
Okay, I don't agree with that because he doesn't understand the price of drugs, that's for sure.
I
I think he's
don't-
missing the paradox of the worker consumer. People would like to have better lives and better income, but they don't have opportunities for it.
So what I just got from that, Brian, is that you need to have a different, I need to be aware of, there are a lot of people that are very hesitant about the things that I just think are no brainers, and
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. And that's one of the nice things about the text banking is, the people willing to have these conversations and express their concerns and get a chance to hear what people are thinking. Then I
Yeah.
get a fair number of ones that are, die commie scum kind of thing responses, but there's some thoughtful people out there too.
okay.
Concretely, you could say that, since 1980, the economy has grown, fivefold, and wages, have barely risen. So wages are not keeping up. Opportunities not keeping up.
I heard a well-known economist in my circle say that actually wages have gone down.
Well, relatively. I mean, they've actually gone down,
Relatively.
not just relatively.
I'm talking about you, Eddie.
Oh,
Yeah. In the last year, they're on average they're down versus inflation. They have not kept up.
yeah,
with
versus
inflation.
inflation, right?
I think I'm not paying attention to those things you're doing, Eddie. I am.
Thanks, TC.
So what we've been doing, what Brian's been doing recently, Brian's been doing the slide presentations, and we can then have recordings of that we can share around with the different, addressing the different aspects of the blueprint. So we have that going on. I think we're done with round 5. I think it's both. I'm gonna write both. Brainstorm creating a union hall, purpose, where, what, who. Now Brian said in the newsletter, this is the virtual union hall where we're at right now. And of course, I went and set up a Discord, which went over like a lead balloon. I just thought that I had this image that I sit around all day and people could come in and out of Discord and I could just hang out and be here when they show up and stuff like that. That would make, but that's a lot of thinking about shit that probably ain't never gonna happen. How does this serve us as a virtual union hall? We're gonna be here every Wednesday. We have meetings every Wednesday at the union hall. That'll go good. That makes a good sound bite.
So yeah, so what's our goal for next week?
Goal for next week, right? Any suggestions? Oh, one of the things I want to do for next week is I want to have another newsletter that has the things I was just talking about, the slideshows, and also the welcome people, that if you get this if you're getting this newsletter, you're a member in good standing with the American Union. So people can really feel like they're part of it. Kind of create what the feeling I want inside myself and invite other people to join that. And they can or they can't. I mean, it's up to them. So far, things I've offered haven't been very well received. What would you want to do, Mr. Qualified Witness?
I want to finish up letters, emails to people to, want to get some people who used the volunteer form this weekend. Try and steer people into doing some text banking and things like that. But yeah, I got a number of writing things that I want to finish up by next week. Next Wednesday, I'll be on the road. But I'll plan on stopping somewhere and zooming in from my phone.
Brian, describe the text banking, please.
Yeah, I'm basically Chihuahua. It's using the computer to send messages to people, and then they reply. And so we've got tens of thousands of phone numbers from the voter database. So we contact people who are registered to vote and try and persuade them that we can do better by working together and unionizing. So
now I've never heard it called that. How does one person get involved in this? How does a person become part of your text banking?
we're doing a training, and anybody wants to do it. We're doing a training tomorrow evening at 4:00 your time, 7:00 my time. And so we'll talk a little bit more about the Universal Basic Income Program so that people can answer questions. And then usually what happens is we can stay on Zoom and people can text bank on their own computers, so we can have a conversation and, bounce questions and trade humorous responses and things like that. So
I'm familiar
Interesting.
with doing it on the phone. How do you do it on the computer?
texting,
Yeah.
it's a website that offers this service where
Uh-huh.
it automates the process of sending peer-to-peer texts so that you can send a bunch of them quickly.
Where's this Zoom meeting taking place?
The link is in the newsletter.
Okay.
I don't like, where is the Zoom meeting taking place? I'm not sure what answer you want. It's on Zoom.
Okay, because we're going to record it
Yeah, probably. That's the plan.
because you're going to talk about universal income.
Yep.
So I will
Um,
probably be driving tomorrow at that time. But do you have trainings regularly?
Like once a month or something like that. It's really not, it doesn't have to be real formal, Chihuahua. Like if you got some time at some point and you want to sit down and go through it, we can do that. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Basically, it's just having a conversation, take you 5 minutes to learn the setup.
Yeah.
he set me up. It's just that I was more of a pain in the butt than I was a help. So
No, you were texting with some woman, and like she responded the next day, like, even if I disagree, I really enjoyed texting with you, and I'd be happy to continue this conversation if you want. And TC was like, no, I'm done. I'm good. So TC has his own charm.
oh, really? So next week we're going to work on letter writing.
The newsletter out earlier in the day on Wednesday.
Okay.
Get the newsletter out Wednesday morning. But I'll be leaving here at like 10 a.m. So that's a pretty, I will need to get it out first thing in the morning. Anyways.
Okay. What
That's
is it?
7 a.m. here.
Well, why don't we do it Tuesday?
Yeah.
Do what Tuesday?
Get the newsletter out.
Yeah. So I mean, with
Yeah.
the Action Network, we can schedule it.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So,
saying. Can you
yeah.
schedule it for the next morning and
Right.
not have to rush?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you a question, Brian. Do you have to do a bunch of work to send that newsletter out? I mean, like, I
So
know a lot of it's automated.
they'll be easier from now on, but last night was a hurdle trying to import hundreds of names from MailChimp and then trying to get it set up in a way that I tagged them. So anyways, you don't want to get into the minutia, but like I had it all, I got the MailChimp into a spreadsheet, and then the tags I had in MailChimp, I had to turn into one field separated by commas so that Action Network would recognize them as separate tags and add those tags. And I did it wrong the first time, which meant then I had to go back and figure out exactly which 500 and some names I'd added, and then strip all the tags off of those, and then re-upload it and properly attach the correct tags the second time. And anyways, so yeah, so there was a lot of learning curve,
So let me ask
but
you
the
that
rest, they should go easier.
all the time I thought you were writing a newsletter, you were merging MailChimp, the thing that we said needed to get done, and you got that done?
Yes. I also learned that you
Wow.
can't embed videos in Action Network. So I can embed the video on the website in the template, but it won't act when you actually send it, it won't go through. And so it took several attempts for me to realize it wasn't working, and then an email to tech support, and they said, oh yeah, you can't do that. So I don't know if you noticed in the newsletter, I just took a screenshot of what the embedded video would look like and stuck that picture in there. And if you click on the picture, it'll take you to YouTube to watch the video.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
instead of playing the video in, but it's seems like a functional workaround. So that's my strategy from now on.
This is way cool. I don't know where, I want to write this down so I don't forget it.
Yeah. And all these things that I feel like I'm reinventing. I have to reinvent the wheel to
Yes.
learn all these things. And so I've been trying to avoid reinventing the wheel so that I can focus on other things. But
That's cool. I'm praising you and although I'm trying to write.
that's fine. So I did an all-nighter. I've had 30
Yeah.
minutes of sleep since yesterday morning. But I told you I'd get it out, get the newsletter out before I went to bed. So I did.
All right.
Thanks for that, TC.
So
Dedication.
all this stuff that I'm writing and whatnot is all possibilities for the newsletter this week. Want to announce a lot of.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I just said, well, I want to, relate a lot of success and movement within the union.
Is this going to be a newsletter that comes out how often?
Weekly now.
Weekly now.
If
It's a lot.
Well, I think I may be over talking because Brian just said you can't put videos in, and that's a lot of what I was going to do with it.
It's okay, TC. You just do what he did. You put the picture in with a link that takes you to the video on YouTube. What's the difference?
Oh, you can put a link in there.
Right.
Yeah.
And it actually works out better because that link can be the start of a playlist. Whereas if you actually embedded the
Yeah.
video, it would just be the single video.
Okay. Because I just finished another presentation. So, that'll be up. Well, I got to put it on YouTube next, but it'll be up this tonight, Brian. So those guys, if they want it before the weekend, they got it. Eddie, we're at the end of the hour, and I want to have you share a little bit more with us before we go. How you doing, and how's your family, and are you everything cool in China?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. The family is good. I have been sort of pulling back. I think you guys No, in the last few months, I've been sort of a little bit overloaded with too many projects, and I've been pulling back, um, everywhere I can lately. Oh, so the Friday, I've canceled the Thursday night meetings, and
Right.
I don't know. I think, I think I'm where I should be. Um, I've been spending a little bit more time with the family, um, which is I think what I want.
Who wants to close out next?
I need to go.
Okay, all right, so that she was out, and Brian needs to go to sleep.
Yeah,
It's
So
on my
that,
list of things
all
to
right.
do.
so that's it.
See you guys next week.
All right,